Good morning, biology, and happy Thursday. This is your quick run through of what is on the plan for class today. So, as always, we're going to start in the classwork section. If you hopefully you saw this video in the stream since you're watching it, I'm guessing you did. And so if you pop over to the classwork section and let's take a peek at our calendar for today. And you'll notice I've updated the rest of the week so you can see what's coming up for today and tomorrow so you can plan ahead. So for today, we have scientific investigations. So we should write that down in our planner. And then Germ Experiment parts 1 through 4. Notice I gave you how much time you should spend on each part. So if you're spending 20 minutes on part 1, this project's going to take you a really long time. So kind of set that timer for yourself to ensure that you're not overthinking things and digging too deep and making a project that should take about, an hour and a half, take like 4 hours for you. That's not what we want. So that's the plan for today. You'll see tomorrow is when you'll actually finish that germ experiment assignment and turn it in, so you don't need to worry about submitting it today. So let's go take a look. All right, first thing is scientific investigations. And so remember, work in order. So if you have not gotten through lesson 1.1, don't go on to anything else. Finish that first, and then go to vocab, and then this worksheet, and then this is the worksheet for today. There's no point jumping ahead if you don't know the material, right? All right, so scientific investigations. You'll notice this is not a long assignment. It should take you about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how familiar you are with picking out the control and the independent variables, which we practiced yesterday, right? So hopefully this will be a little bit more deeper review for you. But here's your instructions. Finish lesson 1.1 first. Then you're going to flip to page 10 if you've got the printed note guide packet, or you'll use the digital copy that I've included here. So let's open that digital copy. And you are welcome to use either. You can change back and forth however you want. I don't really care as long as I can see your work. That's what I'm concerned about. All right, so let's blow that up to 100% so we can actually read it. And you'll notice the first one is filled out for you. So if you look back at the assignment, I did a walkthrough video that talks through how to solve these problems. And it works through number 1, this first example here. Also, note that there's an addendum, for a fancy word, but a change to the instructions. So this says read each scenario and answer the questions. I'm having you only choose 2. That does not include the one that we did together. So you need to pick one of these to skip. So you're going to answer 2 of these other scenarios and analyze those. But so watch through that video and that will give you more instructions on how to answer these questions and how to pick out all those pieces of an experiment. And your goal here is to show me how independent and dependent variables relate to each other and to a hypothesis, and then to pick out what's an observation versus an inference. So you're going to be doing a little bit of an analyzing of how did they come to that and why did they think of that. And then you are actually picking out the different steps in the experiment. So make sure you keep that in mind as you're working through. When you're done, you'll click the Turn In button. And if you hand wrote your work, please make sure to upload a picture of it so that I can see it and make sure it's a clear picture. If I can't read it, I can't give you any points for it. All right, germ experiment. This is your big end of section 1 assignment. And it's kind of, instead of doing big formal quizzes and stuff, we're going to be doing some of these mastery assignments. This is the first time you're seeing a mastery assignment. So practice means you're trying, you're practicing. If you're giving it your full effort, you're going to earn 100% on it. Mastery is where you're showing me exactly how much you understand from this lesson and how much you've learned. So let's take a look at that assignment. Instructions are simple. Open the file, follow the directions. Please do your best work. Remember, you're showing off how much you know here. And this is telling me that you have the confidence and the knowledge to move on to section 2 and then turn it in. This assignment should take you an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how much effort and time and thought you need to put into it. And then here's your learning targets, and here is your assignment. So let's take a look at this. This is essentially our very first lab write-up. There's a note here for you. You do not have to perform this lab, you're just working through the design for it. So we will be designing and performing labs later in the semester, but for now, you're just working through how to design a good lab. And so here's our essential question. What is the most effective of washing your hands? Effective method, excuse me. And as we scroll down, there's some background information. This is always going to give you some helpful information for that lab. So read that background information first. You don't want to go into a lab without knowing what you're doing, right? And so essentially, the big idea is we're comparing washing hands to using hand sanitizer to figure out which one works best. And you only need to do parts 1 through 4 today. So part 1, you're going to come up with your own overarching question that we're trying to answer. I might have just picked it out for you. The essential question is a great place to look to, but don't copy it because that's not specific enough, right? Because this just says what's the most effective method of washing your hands. Notice we're going to be looking at soap and hand sanitizer. So we're really getting at the point of washing our hands and trying to figure out what is the best way to, and I'll let you fill in the blanks on that. Then your purpose is what are we trying to determine? So instead of a question, you're now turning into a statement. And that's essentially this lab will determine the whatever it is, right? I'm not going to give you the answer there. All right, so that's part 1. You see why it can only take 5 minutes, right? Part 2 is writing your hypothesis. This also should only take 5 minutes. And so part 2 is using that if-then format that you see here. So if we do this, then what results do you expect to see? Don't worry about trying to figure out if you're going to be 100% right. We don't want to be wrong. Sometimes we learn the most when something is actually not what we expected. So when an experiment goes wrong, we actually get better data sometimes. So make sure you write your hypothesis in that full format. And then I've given you a few of the materials we're going to be using. You need to fill in the rest. And there's 2 columns here. It doesn't really matter which column you put what in, so that's up to you. I just wanted to give you plenty of space to fill that in without making a really long list. But I'll give you a hint. There's not a lot of materials for this, so you need to add a couple on there, but I've given you pretty much a halfway start. Okay, that should also only take 5 minutes, and you can see why, right? It's not super detailed. Okay, part 3. This one I've given you, or I've encouraged you to spend about 10 minutes on because you really want to think through the procedure. This is your step-by-step process you're going to follow, and you're going to want to be really specific. If you just say, test hand washing and test sanitizer and measure the amount of germs, well, how do I test the hand washing? Do I wash them for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 minutes? Tell you no on that one. How do I test if there's germs? How do I know what the difference between the sanitizer and the hand soap is? Should we use soap? That's not even on your list, right? So you want to be real specific. So an example would be if I was going to test which food my cats like better, I would be very specific. Feed cats type A food for 3 days. Measure how much food was given. Measure how much food was remained. That's 3 steps already, right? Number 4 might even be measure cats' interest level in the food, but they're cats. It's really hard to tell, right? Then step 5, feed cats new food, type 2 of food. Measure how much food was given. Let cats eat. Measure how much food remains. Gauge interest of cats level, and then compare results. So that's like 11 steps right there just to feed them 2 different foods. So there should be plenty of steps here. Once you've done that, you can take a look at the results here, and then you're going to fill in your chart, and this is the last part for today. You need to make this table fit the results, and I'm not going to show you the results yet because I want you to think about the process on your own first. But remember, a good data table is going to have a title up here, and then each column should have a label as well. So we know what's the information in here and what's the information in here. And what are we comparing this to this? Typically, like if I was doing this for cats, I would have food 1, food 2. This would be amount eaten. And this could be interest level. Now, I can measure how much, maybe I'll say they ate 50 grams. I don't even know if that's like a reasonable amount. 50 grams of that one, and they only ate 20 grams of the second one. Well, that gives us a hint, right? But is there a number I can put to their interest level? Not really, right? Like I can say they ate fast, or they were focused on their eating. Whereas this one, maybe they ate slow, wandered away. That doesn't really give us any numbers, but it does give us good observations, good data to work with. And so your chart may look something like this, and you'll want to make sure that we can tell if I'm looking at the information in this box here, okay, so that's the type of food and what's eaten for the type of food. Okay, it's got to be really clear. That sums up all that you need to do for today. You will do the analysis and the conclusion part tomorrow. So unless you got a ton of free time, in which case you're welcome to keep working, but you are not expected to do that part today. So if you have any questions, let me know. I know this is a longer video, but this is a big assignment and it will have a large impact on your grade. So I want to make sure that you are off to a strong start. Good luck.